Well, hey, you guys, welcome to the Connection Point Worldview podcast. My name is Ron, your host. I'm here as always with Pastor Trey Shigley and Dr. Zach Breitenbach. They make up our Worldview department at Connection Point Christian Church in central Indiana. And this is a podcast that's helping just kind of bolster your faith and process areas of the Bible or tough questions of apologetics that might help you, your students, family, or friends. This is a Burning Questions edition, which means we've been submitted some questions that we're trying to work our way through and give just a few minutes of thoughtful biblical answers to help you in your faith or maybe answer a question that a friend has in your life. So, Dr. Zach, what's the question you've got for us today?
All right, this one says, what about those who abuse drugs, alcohol, cause domestic violence, or they're disputing with family members? How should we address this? How should we deal with this kind of thing? Man, especially if it's family members, this can be hard. It's just difficult when there's family issues because these are people, you don't choose your family and your family's your family. And so you want to get along. And so sometimes addressing hard things is extra difficult, even in your family. But when it comes to these hard things like drugs, alcohol, domestic violence, you want to address them with care and compassion. But if there's abuse, you have to report this. Even if it's a friend, even if it's a family member, even if it's somebody who's in your church, the loving thing to do is not to ignore abuse. Right?
Boundaries do have a place in the Christian walk, and I think sometimes there's individuals may be wired a certain way to be extra gracious or whatnot, but then there's also generations too that I think have lost maybe boundaries. There are a couple passages in Scripture that list some really unhealthy, sinful behavior, and then it ends with have nothing to do with such people. So there's a time and place for that.
Yep. Sometimes you have to just take yourself out of that situation or encourage someone else to as well. No one should be hanging in there to get abused.
No.
That's never right. So I would say provide emotional support, spiritual support, a lot of prayer. You may need to encourage this person to seek help in different ways, whether that's a Christian counselor, maybe it's an addiction specialist, depending what the problem is. It could be some kind of rehab that this person needs. It's important to get help. It's important to take people out of abusive situations, and it's important to get help to deal with the root causes and what's going on there. Whether it's family or someone close to you, don't ignore this kind of thing in the interest of just getting along and not rocking the boat. That's not the loving thing to do. A lot of times we think love means you just condone people's behavior or their beliefs or the way they're living. You don't want to tell them they're wrong. But when it comes to these sorts of things, that's not loving. You're letting them go down a bad path. It's really being loving to yourself is what it is. You're saying, you're trying to look out for yourself is what I mean by that. You're like, I would rather do the easy thing for myself and just leave it alone than do the hard thing and confront this issue when it comes to these hard things like drugs and alcohol and domestic violence. So don't ignore it. What would you like to add?
Yeah, this is such a hard question because we don't know exactly what they're asking. They just kind of brought up these situations. But one thing that could be helpful is just acknowledging that you don't have to solve everything. And so many times, especially if it's someone close to us who's going through maybe struggle with drugs or alcohol or things of that nature, we feel like we have to be the ones to fix them, and we feel this weight or this burden. And I would encourage everyone to widen the circle of care, because I think there are different people in our lives that have different roles, and we are all called to care and love for the people around us, but we all have different roles and responsibilities with the people around us. And so if you are able to widen the circle of care to the people that you're concerned about, you're able to then maybe bring other people into their life that can have different roles in that person's life. You don't have to do this alone. And then I also just want to, this is going back to boundaries, Ron, like you said, the difference between forgiveness and trust. You can forgive someone for the things they've done. And in fact, Jesus, this is a very hard teaching of Jesus. He calls us to always forgive because we've been forgiven by God. So we are called to always be forgiving of the people who hurt us, the people who hate us, over and over again. And yet we don't always have to trust those people. We can put up those boundaries. We can separate ourselves from them. We can kind of change the relationship or the dynamics in that relationship. And a lot of people have trouble differentiating between those two things. They feel like I always have to forgive them, and that means bringing them back into their life and trusting them again or allowing them access again. And those are two very different things.
That's a great summary. Well, if you find yourself in that spot where you could use some more help, then certainly anybody at Connection Point you can reach out to, and we can be of assistance or point you to some professionals that might be able to step in and help as well. If you find yourself as one maybe who is addicted to a substance or whatever it may be, then just know that the grace of God is there for you as well. And if we can be of assistance, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, another good question, guys. Thank you so much. Well, if you've got questions for us, head to connectionpoint.org/worldview. Click on the Questions tab, and then you can submit your questions right there. If you have other needs, connectionpoint.org is a good starting place to get more information about the church. And in the meantime, a couple of things. Would you mind sharing about this podcast with a friend? Maybe give us a review too, as that helps people find us. And please know, in the meantime, we'll be praying for you and your family. God bless.